Well, it sure is getting exciting in the world of Ron Paul. Death threats, more ruckuses in Louisiana and so forth. See, remember when the whole Bilderberg thing was just tinfoil hats, and anybody that talked about the Bilderberg and the secret cabals and the men behind the throne, they were just crazy people, because everybody knows that the president and the elected Congress are what rules this country, right? It's not the corporate leaders and bankers. Anyway, Bilderberg going on there, and the inside sources saying that they'd like to see Ron Paul and all the supporters, that would be me included, die in a fiery crash, in a plane crash. That's nice of them, isn't it? These are the kind of people we're dealing with. And this is the way they've done it throughout time. They shoot people in the head in public and blame the Cubans and single bullet theories and all kind of fun stuff like that. And they'll shoot, Martin Luther King, and it was a lone gunman. They didn't have anything to do with it. And RFK and JFK Jr. crashing a plane, and Wellstone crashing a plane. All these guys, it's just coincidence. Right? And the sheep just believe it, because whatever the mainstream media says is what's true. They just manufacture consent. For war and for everything else. And again, we'll talk about social issues in just a moment, but Ron Paul is, 446 delegates up for grabs in the next few days. Even if Romney got every single delegate, he still wouldn't cinch the nomination. He's only around 600 or so. Even if you got 446 more at 600, just simple addition. Like I said, it's just simple addition. And now there seems to be a controversy, a little contest over whether it's 1144 or 1155. Either way, Ron Paul is not out of this, not out of the running. Many of those Romney delegates in that 600 number, many are Ron Paul supporters. And they know it. And they're trying to weed them out and doing everything they can to make sure, right? Now, which is worse? They're going to charge these guys with perjury if they don't vote. That's what they threaten to do. If you don't vote for Romney in the first round in the Republican convention, we're going to charge you with perjury. Really? Let's look up the perjury laws and see how they're going to make that stick. Because did they swear in a court of law that they were going to vote for Romney? Did they sign any contracts that say, or any affidavits that say that they were going to vote for Romney? Or was that just some rules these guys made up? Are there laws against coercion? Are there laws against coercion? That sounds like coercion to me. If you were going to, threaten these guys with perjury, threaten them with penalty, threaten them with some kind of penalty or consideration for not voting the way you want them to, that sounds a lot like coercion. And there's laws against that. There's also laws against fraud. Now, in Texas, we know they flip the votes. They flip the votes in Texas. They're doing it constantly. They're going to flip more votes going up in California. Don't worry. Now, don't you get it? They flip the votes in Texas. They flip them, right? The votes that were for Ron Paul become the Romney votes, and the votes that were for Romney become the Ron Paul votes. It's very simple. And then Romney can get up there on his throne and say, hey, look, I'm the presumptive candidate. And, of course, the mainstream media will parrot everything that he has to say, because they don't do any kind of reporting or any kind of anything. They don't do any investigative reporting and find out, is there any vote flipping going on, or is that guy on the internet just nuts, right? Are these people just crazy? Those voting machines are safe, right? Why don't they go and just do a story about that? You don't even hear a single story about that, do you? And then they try to make it sound like the Ron Paul people are crazy and, taking over and doing something dirty and underhanded because they're in the delegate process. So they get their votes stolen. Don't report on that. They do show up at the caucuses to become delegates and electors, and they get involved in the process. And somehow it's the Ron Paul people that are in the wrong, or that are not, doing what's right, and that, that we're somehow they're subverting democracy, or whatever the hell stories I hear is just crazy, because they become involved. And Romney, who is so popular in the popular vote, and he's got 60-70% of the popular vote, right? Even in Ron Paul's home district, but he can't get a delegate to show up. He can't get the delegates to show up. He can't get people to show up down there. Yeah, turn your TVs off. Unless you're watching Contains No News and Fox News, FAUX News, and CBS, to see what's going on and keep a pulse on the bullshit propaganda, and that's why you're watching it, is to see what bullshit propaganda they're trying to stuff down your throat, which is very different than watching the news to try to get information and find out what's going on and thinking that that's what's happening. But if you're looking at the news to see the, the bullshit that they're trying to spew, that's one thing. But if you're still got the TV turned on and you think that they're telling you what's going on the news, well, I'm sorry for you, because they're not telling you what's going on. They're trying to manufacture consent. They're trying to, pick a candidate for you the way they've done it for 50 years now. And, ooh, this time there seems to be some disgruntled Americans who think that they're supposed to be involved in the process and who think that their guy should be the nominee and not this other guy that they're pretending has popular support. Because he doesn't have popular support. Ron Paul shows up, thousands and thousands of people show up to hear him speak, and you don't see lots of protesters standing up there with signs against Ron Paul. What you see is thousands and thousands, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 people showing up for Ron Paul. Romney shows up. He draws a crowd, all right. A few hundred people will show up, and about half of them are protesters. They're holding signs about, take the blame for the pain of Bane and so forth. And it was great. So I saw several pictures of people showing up, and they're not there to support Romney. They're there protesting Romney. He doesn't have popular support by any stretch of the imagination. And the GOP knows this, and they don't care. Now, I've seen many people saying that this is the better plan, is to actually, if Ron Paul somehow doesn't get in, this is still to be determined, however, but if Ron Paul doesn't get in, they vote for Obama, because Obama's got to be out in 4 years, and if Romney somehow managed to win using, Republican voting machines, that we'd have 8 years of Romney. Okay, that's actually not a bad strategy. I see that. I don't agree with it, but I see where you're coming from there, is that because Romney can stand for 8 years, and Obama can only stand for 4 years. And then we'd have another shot at it in 4 years. We ain't got 4 years. Right? It's my humble opinion that in the next couple of years, you're going to see so much unrest. And this is ending very badly, and it's this year or next year where it comes to the catharsis. Right? They papered over the 2008 debt crisis, and now the can only be kicked down the road so much further. And we're down to months now. We're not down to years anymore. There's a Jim Rogers links, and that's another thing. People are like, "Oh, you added more links." Yes, I always add more links. I add a ton of links to start off with, and then I add more as time goes by. So check back, and maybe you can use them in, I don't know, chat rooms or wherever you're at in social media and so forth. If you're just posting and informing people, or maybe you're in a discussion or something and you want to let people know more information. Hopefully my links come in handy for you. That's the point. And I get most of my links, like I said, it's Activist Post, it's whatreallyhappened.com, it's, where else? It's InfoWars, etc. Aggregators, Dollar Collapse, places like that. Okay, so a little more on this whole, okay, so we've got the whole IRS, Federal Reserve thing. Now, understand the bankers put this system in place. And a lot of people were like, "Well, I don't have any debt." Yes, you do, because you don't have anything but debt, because all of our currency is denominated in debt. Those dollar bills, my friends, are not U.S. dollars. Those are Federal Reserve notes, and those notes are not showing credit. They show debt, because the Federal Reserve loans the money to us. Okay, they loan the money to the United States Treasury, and then all of the money that is in existence is evidence of debt, not credit. Okay, so if you have money saved in that paper, it's debt. Now, the debt needs to be paid back with interest. How did they do this? Well, they instituted this scam called the IRS to pay back the interest on the debt, so that they have money all the time. And many people have done studies and so forth, and it's in plain, all of this is in plain view, that they've basically instituted a system that now they take your dollar that you earn, and they try to say that you owe income tax on that money, and all of that money goes to pay the interest on the debt that they've created by issuing our currency. Pretty cool, huh? Now, if you're a banker, that's really cool. If you're a country like us, it impoverishes nations. See, they started off doing this in the banana republics, and like I said, it worked so well. They loaned all these banana republics, Guatemala and and Costa Rica and Panama and all these other countries, Ecuador. They loan them the money, or give them huge loans, and then how do they get paid back? Well, then they just tax the people, right? So that those loans are guaranteed by the labor of the populace in the nation. Sound familiar? Right? Our currency is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. That would be us. That would be the tax that on everything that you do. Okay. Now, do we need tax? Yes, we need excise taxes, and the government was set up to run on excise tax. But the income tax, that's a scam set up by the bankers, and then they're in cahoots with the Federal Reserve, and you need to just not take my word for it. Get out there and do a little bit of study. It won't take you more than a few hours on the internet. There's thousands of people that have come before me that have figured out this scam and how it works. Now, and again, the Federal Reserve, no more federal than Federal Express. The IRS, no creation statute. It's not the United States Department of the Treasury or the United States IRS. It's Department of the Treasury, IRS. Look on any piece of paper you've gotten from the IRS, anything on their letterhead. And then you can talk about document control numbers and Office of, OMB numbers and so forth. Where do these numbers appear? What forms are they? They use bootleg forms. But anyway, just do your own damn research and don't believe anything anybody says on the internet. Do your own research and see if it's true. Go look and send Freedom of Information Act requests and go look in the USC, United States Code, right? And go find out about UCC, right? The Uniform Commercial Code. Therein are the answers to any questions you have. USC 5, USC 26, USC 27, the USC 31. These are all places you can look and find all kinds of interesting information written right there in plain view in the law, right? I know people say, you want to hide information from a nigga, just put the information in a book and put that book in a library, right? And we all niggas now, folks. I mean, people hate that word, but I'll tell you what, we all niggas now. Look at what they're doing, stealing your vote, and what? And then accusing you of doing something wrong when you show up to become a delegate. Come on, that doesn't get better than that. All you got, right? People supporting Obama, and he's putting people in jail for marijuana. He's putting people in jail for raw milk. He's got could he rein in the FDA? Hell yes, he could rein in the FDA. Could he rein in the DEA? Yes, he could. Absolutely, he's the president. But no, does he do these things? No. And then we've got drones showing up, and they're gonna have 30,000 drones, from what I understand, and they want to start arming some of these drones because we need more surveillance. They're not protecting you, right? They're not protecting you. They're raising revenue. These wars, they're not protecting you with these wars. They're raising revenue. The wars are very, very good for business. They make tons of money. They're not protecting you. They're raising revenue, right? That should be your chant. Now, we've got this guy named Ron Paul. Drug war, wants to end it. Big wars with Iran and these other countries, Syria and so forth. He would be ending these wars, bringing our troops home. Right? We're not making friends around the world doing the things that we're doing, and our troops are committing suicide in droves. Why are they doing that? Just ask yourself why. There's a lot of different answers. You can talk about the fact that the pharmaceuticals that they give them for the antidepressants and post-traumatic stress disorders actually cause suicidal thoughts, but we won't talk about that because that's crazy. And of course, the media gets all kinds of money from pharmaceutical companies in advertising, so they're not. But this is the small portion of the problem, right? The social issues. You guys want to talk about social issues, and when you talk about social issues, it winds up being birth control and gay marriage. We got soldiers committing suicide. We got them fighting in wars that they were lied into. These are men and women who wanted to serve and protect their country, and about, I don't know, somewhere along the line they realize, right? They realize they might not be on the right side of things, on the right side of history. And then they come back. Anyway, and then the Federal Reserve. Again, the biggest social issue, that dollar that you have in your pocket. Everybody has one. Not everybody gets an abortion and not everybody's gay, but everybody uses United States currency by law, right? Our legal tender laws force you into using the currency. Silver, they stole all the silver out of our money in 1964. Again, Ron Paul understands these concepts. Ron Paul and the Bilderbergers talking about killing him, that's not even news to me. Right? If half of the stuff that they try to, the propaganda that they try to put on TV were true about Ron Paul, unleashing the corporations and that he'd get rid of regulations, the Bilderbergers would be all behind him. How can we get this guy in office? We got to get this guy in office because he'd unleash us and we'd be able to do whatever we want. That's exactly not what's happening. And I didn't even get a chance to talk about Ron Paul Fest. There's going to be 100,000 people down there in Tampa besides everything else. Anyway, get out there and work for Ron Paul. 2012, this thing ain't over. We got lots to do.